Today is August 17th, 2023. I am Melissa Ackerman, and I will be interviewing Laura Seymour in Dallas, Texas. Hi, Laura. How are you today?
I'm great.
Thank you for sitting down with me. We are asking a lot of the past presidents and key staff to tell about their experiences and their time working for the JCC. How did you come to the JCC in Dallas?
Well, in 1974, we were living in 74, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I said, I can't live in this town anymore, and my husband found work here in Dallas, and we moved in 76, probably, and we immediately came to the JCC. We had a 2-year-old, and she started at the preschool. And the preschool director at the time was Bob Weiss. And Bob Weiss also had a 2-year-old named Rachel, like our Rachel. And Bob and I talked and talked about everything, not really about our children. And he was looking for a camp director. And I said, oh, I'm a camp director. And I was hired. So that was my first summer working at camp was 1977.
Had camp been around at the J at that time, or were you starting it?
I actually met the camp director, who was the camp director the year I was born. It was a strange experience. But yes, camp at the J has been going on for a long time. Even then, we had a Camp High was the major camp. We had a ranch site in Louisville, and I was hired to be, I think, a unit head. I don't want to speak ill, but the person who was the camp director really was not as knowledgeable in camp directing. So I helped at that point, and then I was pregnant with my second son, and I said, you know, I'm glad to come back, but let me have this baby first. So the summer went well, and then Peter was born in 1977, and I signed up for continuing to be the camp director.
Had you been a camp director in your past life before Dallas JCC?
Well, I had gone to camp from the time I was practically born. And I went to a summer camp in California. And actually, Jeff and I met at the summer camp when we were 12. And we went to camp together. I don't know what he's going to say about that experience, but the story goes that he kept saying, when I'm ready, you and I will get married. And finally, at whatever age I was, I said, you know, I'm not waiting so much longer, and we got married. And I had been, I had grown up at this camp. I worked at the camp. I was the assistant director at the camp, so I had a lot of experience at a sleepaway camp. So I knew how to run camp.
Okay, so back to where you were talking about when you first started, and so how big was the camp at that time?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. I've kind of lost perspective with it. We could have had 200, 250. I mean, it was a big group. We bused the children from the JCC and other spots out to the ranch in Louisville. I think, again, I don't remember one year from the next, but probably the next year or the year after, we had parents who said, we need a bus stop in Plano. And we said, Plano? And we looked for a bus stop in Plano and found one. And the bus went from North Dallas out to Plano and picked up 15 kids. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And we moved to different ranch sites that were available out in the Louisville area.
And when did you move over to the J?
I could be wrong. I think it was 2006. I think that summer. The Jay was going through some serious financial difficulties, and the ranch, we rented the site, so the ranch cost us money to rent, and the buses, as today, were very, very expensive. So we moved back here. I put on a happy face and said it would be a new adventure, and it was a new adventure, and you know, it works here. Do we miss having a total outdoor space? You always miss that. But the J works for camp here, and we just continue to grow and grow and change slightly in our programming, but not, you know, camp has a special magic that you have to continue. The traditions, no matter where you are, the traditions are important.
Tell me some of the traditions that are special for camp here.
Well, probably one of the important ones is how you divide your groups. And we call our groups tribes after the 12 tribes of Israel. And why I say that's important is that it gives you a progression. You move from one age to the next age to the next age, and it says to the child, next year when I come back, I get to do this. And we also have divided into units by grade. And so again, it's next year I'll get to do this. And so having that sense of continuity, sense of being a part of something that's been around for a long time. We have, I brought in this award that if you start in your first eligible year at camp and go through your last eligible year at Camp High, which was first grade to sixth grade, now is kindergarten through sixth grade, you got a special t-shirt, and then you also were guaranteed a job when you reached 15. I was surprised that it worked for retention, because kids who were going off to sleepaway camp said, oh, I have to go back at least for a session to camp. And so they kept coming.
Did you regret making that promise for a few of the kids?
No, I said to the children, you will get a job.
Oh, you didn't promise any particular?
I didn't promise what group you're going to get, but you're going to learn from that.
Okay. Did you have typical music and singing? And
we always had singing, and really, if you sidestep for a moment, we have always been an accredited camp by the American Camp Association, which means you follow certain guidelines that are very tough to follow. A lot of paperwork and training work and things of that sort. But we felt it was important to do that, and you learn a lot from other camp directors. And when you talk to camp directors, they say a singing camp is a community that always forms together. So we've always had singing, and I don't know when I started leading it, because I wasn't always the song leader.
oh, you had other people that
I had
filled
other
that
people
role?
do it because I was running the camp. And then when we came back here, it's probably when we came back here, I took over the song leading because I enjoy it, and I'm loud, and I play the guitar, and the kids have to listen to me. So now we sing all the time, and that's an important thing. We also, I mean, probably the most important thing here is that people who have come to camp, have grown up at camp, are now sending their children back to camp and their grandchildren back to camp. And there's always this connection. You know, we have a t-shirt, what happens to you at Camp High stays with you forever. And you become a lifer if you worked at camp or came to camp and have a child at camp. So we're seeing a lot of that.
And do you accept all types of kids, even kids that may need a little extra help?
From the first year that I worked camp, I believed in every child deserves camp. And we have always done everything we can do to accommodate the needs of children who may or may not be diagnosed with a special need. We can't accommodate every child, but we sure try. And many of those children are very successful at camp. We do have shadows that help. But the belief is that it's not just for that child and that family, but what the other children receive by being in a tribe with a child who struggles with this, that, or the other, it goes with them forever. They really learn a sensitivity, because our belief is we're a community, and you don't have to love everybody, but we have to get along because we're all in this together. And that, I think, has stuck with all of the children who come.
That's great. Anything else you want to say about camp before we move into some of the other jobs you've done since you've been here at the J?
I believe that camp is the most important experience to a child's life. I think what happens in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks can't be replicated anywhere else for many, many reasons. So I will always be a camp director at heart.
And how many years you've been camp director here? I know you're emeritus now, but how?
77 to...
I'm terrible at math.
It's like 47 years, 46
wonderful.
years.
Okay, that's great.
I started very young.
You did. You were just a small child.
Yeah.
But in addition to camp, you've done so many other things. Tell me about some of the other things, other positions you've had since you've been at the J here.
I started when I went full-time. I was the youth director, so I did all the youth programming. I was the family director. I started becoming where my name started, the Shabbat lady, when I started doing Shabbat with the preschool, and that evolved into, now what I'm doing is I literally teach every single preschool class about the Jewish holidays, Jewish values, and we sing and dance and do all kinds of things, but I'm still involved with that. And I also was the preschool director for a while. And part of it, sometimes we lose a person in a position, sometimes we need a change, and I was available and knew what to do. I actually believe that the preschool director needs to not only know about early childhood and whatnot, but has to really know how to supervise staff, how to train staff, and how to build community. And camp directors know how to build community. And that is, the most important thing. And here at the J, we're not a standalone preschool. We're not a standalone camp. We are a community. And we say we want our babies to come here from birth and not leave till they've eaten a senior lunch. So we want our community to understand that they're part of something bigger.
And you've been here for a long time. How's the JCC changed over the years?
Probably the biggest change has been, besides physical growing and whatnot, is when I started, we were the best kept secret in town. We were probably 95 to 98% Jewish. And the other 2% were staff who brought their kids. And, today we're not, in various departments we are, maybe some departments were 50% Jewish, some departments maybe 60. But that has been a major change. And yet, my role today, and has been for a while as the Jewish educator, is to say, how do we maintain who we are as a Jewish community, welcoming people of all different faiths? And, that is our goal, because that's who we are.
Has that presented a challenge to deal with the community changing?
I don't know that I would say it's a challenge. The non-Jewish community is anxious to learn. They wouldn't be here if they didn't want to come to a Jewish organization. So they're always willing to learn and to ask questions. Actually, the Jewish community, the Jews have more trouble because we don't want to admit that we don't know something. So we don't always ask to learn. And we are a broad base of Jews. We have all kinds of Jews in all different practices and observances and knowledge. And, we want to be a place where everybody can learn in a comfortable way.
How is the Jewish community, in addition to the JCC, how has that changed in the years that you've been in Dallas?
Well, I try to stay out of the politics of the Jewish community because I have to be a neutral person.
Okay.
But we are members of Tiferet Israel and have been for years and are very comfortable there. But we've seen changes and growth and arguments and rabbis and arguments, and I can keep saying that.
Who are some of the executives that you have worked with over the years?
Well, probably the most famous is Harry Rosen, and not too many people around still remember Harry. He was a real old school director, and I never aspired to be anything beyond the camp director or Jewish educator. So I had no desire to ever move up in the hierarchy. Harry was unique, good, bad, and everything in between. Bob Weiss was an outstanding director, just because I loved Bob, and he was willing to get into the trenches and see what was going on. Karen Stern was a visionary, not always easy. None of these directors were always easy to work with, and everyone had a personality. But I respected each one for what they brought to the table, and Karen, as I say, was a visionary and very committed to Jewish community. Mm-hmm. Who else? Artie. Artie and I have, Artie reminds me that he was a camp director, and I led a training session with JCCA when he was just a camp director. So I don't remember him. He must not have not have behaved poorly.
He blended in.
I don't know, maybe.
That's hard to imagine, yeah. But
I still have kids and adults come up to me all the time. Do you remember me? And my famous line is, "It's better if I don't."
That's great. Who have been some of the more memorable lay leaders that you have worked with over the years?
My first committee chair for the camp committee was Ann Stern, and she was wonderful, 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 wonderful. And then I had, I had a variety of people who served in that capacity. Of course, I loved having David Greenstone because he had grown up at camp and had been one of my counselors and everything. And, everyone, I think a camp committee is important. Committees are important, and they have to be willing to know what the professional's role is and what the lay leadership. And I always felt a respect and commitment to make camp better from it.
What are some of the things you're most proud of as far as your work and
I think there are certain things we all do well. Wave your hand and the light will go on. We're saving electricity here at the JCC. I would say I may label myself as a camp director, but probably my biggest label is I'm a teacher, and I love teaching, and I love doing the Jewish education that I do. I teach formal Jewish education, informal Jewish education, in the hallway Jewish education, or any other, camp training, preschool training, all the variety. My commitment to special needs has always been an important one for me, particularly now, although, you know what, I don't know how many years we have had Habima Theater, but Habima Theater, our adult special needs theater group, is definitely a group and program that I'm proud of. And
Tell me a little bit about that.
Actually, we started because we were trying to expand our offerings for people with special needs. And we had a connection with the High residents. And I have, believe it or not, some experience directing kids' plays, not adult. I'm not a theater director. But I said, we could do this. We could, they should be able to have that experience. And it's really, the plays obviously have to be adapted. And it's a labor of love, is that what you'd call it? We, how many years has it been? 20-something years. Every year we start in January, perform in May. And really, the goal is not the performance. The goal is the experience. The goal is the getting up on stage and overcoming your fears, and then, almost more importantly, proving to the world that it doesn't matter what your abilities are, that you can still give to others. And again, sometimes it's not just the people doing the show. And we do have a lot of volunteers. We have teenage volunteers. It's the audience as well who is gaining something from this experience. And I remember when we did Fiddler on the Roof, and I was so nervous because they didn't know their lines and they didn't know the songs and they wouldn't stand up on time. And we were singing Matchmaker, and I'm pushing the girls to stand up, and I'm down on the floor, and I look across, and the entire audience is crying. And it was just like, oh my God. It was, you do it because you're giving to others. As long as you're letting me to keep talking and talking. One of the things I think is most important, what we say here at the JCC, is we are value-based. And what that means is that we're teaching those values. We're showing how Jewish values impact your life. And so I use the example, when we say a blessing before we eat, we're not doing ritual, although it is a ritual. We are saying we should be grateful that we have something to eat. That's the lesson we want the children to get. That's the lesson we want the seniors to get. That's the lesson everybody should get, not just the ritual. And all of us need to look and say, what is the value that guides me? And my guiding value has always been B'Tselem Elohim. We are created in the image of God. And what that means is I believe that if I view everyone I come in contact with being in the image of God, it shows me how I should treat everybody. And I also need to remember that I too am created in God's image and try to treat myself a little better, meaning don't be a workaholic, but it hasn't worked.
That hasn't worked yet.
It hasn't worked yet.
Is there anything else you would want to add?
No, I just hope they let me stay as long as I want to stay. Right now, I think I have a goal. No, I don't want to set a goal because then that's an end.
No.
So I'm actually probably stronger than half the young people that work here.
Are you
So,
still walking the parking
I'm-
lot for carpool
I,
every day?
I'm still out there carpool at 7:45 in the morning and until 6 o'clock in the evening, and 106.
And I don't think anybody's chomping at the bit to take over that
Nobody wants to
position.
take that job.
No.
No one's so anxious to teach singing either.
Nobody can take your place, and I really do appreciate you talking to
Well,
me today.
thank
Thank you so much.
Okay.